Good morning students, welcome to the YouTube channel of Little Flower School Rapti Nagar. I am Amit Kumar, your computer science teacher, and this is our 17th video lecture of programming in Java. Actually, in our previous lecture we have gone through few of the topics related to programming in Java, especially related to accepting values from the user, string tokenizer, buffered reader, input stream reader and all. Today we are going to basically talk on three important topics like wrapper classes. We are also going to see an example of a program for age calculation where we will use concept of wrapper classes and of course of string tokenizer, and finally we will see various control structure available in programming. As you all know, we are actually revising the topics, so these topics you have already covered up to your previous classes. I am only trying to tell you something new, something interesting and something important from these topics. So without wasting any time further, let's start today's lecture. But one more thing that I want to discuss with you. As I discussed in the previous video lecture that I will see through the error why you are not getting the notes and various exercise questions, and I hope when you will go today on that link you can easily get your notes as well as your exercises. So you can click on the link given below for your notes and exercises, and of course in case of any query the link is also given there. So let's start today's topic. The first topic to discuss today is about wrapper classes. So now what is a wrapper class? Actually in our junior classes we have learned that wrapper classes is a technique, or wrapper class is a class with help of which we can convert easily any primitive data type to an object or to a reference data type. So whenever we want to convert, we want to wrap up our primitive data in an object. We know we are having primitive data and there are 8 primitive data types which are byte, short, int, long, float, double, char and boolean. So out of these 4 primitive data types, whenever you want to convert or whenever you want to wrap this data, this primitive data inside an object, then definitely you will need help, you will take help of wrapper classes. Of course in our previous lecture I have talked about one more thing, that if you want to take value from the user using buffered reader, you can accept it in form of a string. Wrapper classes are also useful whenever we want to convert a string data type to any of the primitive data type. So that's why we are going to understand wrapper classes today. But with wrapper classes, 2 concepts of programming are related, and many times you have been asked about those 2 concepts. They are known as boxing and unboxing. What is the name? Boxing and unboxing. Actually they are not wrapper classes, they are the term related with wrapper classes. So let's see what is boxing and what is unboxing. So whenever you are wrapping up the primitive data inside an object, you are actually performing the boxing operation. So in boxing operation, the primitive data type is converted into reference data type, or in other words you can say in boxing the primitive data type is wrapped inside an object. And the opposite one is unboxing. So whenever you are having a reference data type and you are trying to convert it into primitive one, you will do unboxing. Now there is one more term related to this one, and that term is known as autoboxing. Because with the advanced libraries of Java, with the advanced versions of Java, now we can directly convert a primitive data type into reference data type. We can directly do that by writing a code, and today in today's video lecture in the practical session I will show you how you can directly convert a primitive data type into a reference data type. But whensoever you are directly converting a primitive into reference one, it is nothing but autoboxing. So when boxing occurs automatically, then it is known as autoboxing. So I hope these 3 terms is clear to you: what is boxing, what is unboxing and what is autoboxing. Now one question that generally students used to ask to me whenever we are discussing wrapper class. Now what's that question? Now the question is, what is the need of converting a primitive data type into reference data type, and what benefit do we get if we will convert a primitive data type into reference data type? So there are few classes in Java, and methods of those classes actually work on reference data type only. For example, there is an array list class, and with the help of an array list class you can make a collection of integers or collection of any specific data type. But the problem is this array list class works with reference data type only. So if in case you are having only primitive data types with you, you cannot make a collection of it with help of array list, because it won't work on the primitive data type. So the first thing you have to do is to convert your primitive data type into reference data type and then use it in the array list. Okay, so there are different uses, there are different need of converting a primitive into reference one. I told you only one of the need, and rest of the need we will discuss later on, and this one I will also show you in some upcoming video lectures as form of practical. But let's see how to create and what are various wrapper classes, how to create an object of a wrapper classes, how to convert a primitive into reference one and a reference back to primitive one. What are the various methods of these classes that we are going to use. So we know that there are 8 primitive data types. So for every primitive data type there is a specific wrapper class available in Java. So let's note down the name of the primitive data types and then we will write down the name of those wrapper classes. So the primitive data types are byte, short, int, long, float, double, char and boolean. So these are the 8 primitive data types which we use in Java, right? And for every primitive data type there is a wrapper class available. So for example, for byte the wrapper class name is byte itself. For short the wrapper class name is short itself. For int wrapper class name is not int itself, it's integer. For long it's long. For float, float itself. For double, double. For char, character. And for boolean, boolean. So these are the classes, and you see it is following the advice provided by the Java that each class should start with a uppercase letter, uppercase alphabet. So each class you can see is starting with an uppercase alphabet, and it's also helpful to distinguish between primitive type and these classes. Second thing, these wrapper classes are having different methods. And the interesting thing is most of the methods are almost similar. So if you understand any one of the method, you can use it simply on the other wrapper class for the same kind of purpose, for the same kind of need. Okay. So these are 8 wrapper classes and these are 8 primitive data types. With the help of these wrapper classes, we can wrap up or we can box these primitive data types into classes. Now how to do that? Just like simply we create object of any class, here also we have to create object of this class, and in the constructor we will pass that specific data which we want to box, on which we want to do the boxing operation. So as I told you, simply we will create an object as like the same syntax that we were using in other objects also. Now the question arises here, what is the package name, what is the address, what is the place where is these classes are stored? So the complete address, the package of these classes is java.lang. So all these classes belongs to java.lang package, and we know java.lang is the default package, so we need not to import anything if we want to use this default package. Fine. So how to create an object? Let's see that. So we will create an object of integer, for example. So integer class, object name let it be obj, and in the constructor we can pass integer value. We can simply pass integer constant, and in case if we are having an integer variable storing any value in it, then we can even pass that integer variable in the constructor. So integer obj2 is equals to new integer, and here we can pass variable as well. So what is happening, we know, variable. We know A is primitive data type, 2 is a constant, primitive constant. So what I am doing, I am passing these primitive data inside the constructor of integer class, and the address that it is allocating is stored in objects. So if I am going to print obj or obj2, if I am going to use them, definitely they will be integer, they will be storing integer data, but this time they would be storing reference of those values. So obj and obj2 will be having reference of these values rather than value directly. Now what's the benefit? Of course they can be used for reference data type, wheresoever you want to implement reference data type, they can be used. So all the primitive values, all the tasks on the primitive values can be performed as like we are performing it on the reference data type. So that advantage also you get. Now suppose we want to convert an object and we want to unbox it, we want to convert it back to an integer. So how you are going to do that? Okay, so for that we will take help of few methods. So all these methods I am going to show you practically. Don't worry, the value of method, the parse int method, parse method can be used with other wrapper classes as well. So I am going to tell you those methods as well as the differences between them. There I will also discuss the difference between parse int and value of method, which is a complication for you, which is a doubt for you since class 10th I think. So we will discuss that also. So I hope wrapper classes and the methods of wrapper classes is clear to you. Then now the next thing that we are going to discuss today is a program, as I told you, of age calculation. But for that I have to tell you one method which I am going to use in that program, and the method name is parse method. Now what this method does, now parse method is there in integer class, in float, in double, in character, not in character actually, in boolean. In most of the wrapper classes this parse method is there. For example, if the parse method is in integer class, the method name is parse int. Parse int. Now what this method does, it accepts a string and it returns an integer. But the interesting thing is we need not to pass anything as string. Actually it accepts a string from the user. Not getting it. Okay, let me tell you what this parse int actually does. So this parse int is a method of integer class which accepts a string and returns an integer. So we will pass a string and that string will be converted into integer. But the important thing is the string that we are passing should be compatible, that can be converted into integer. It should be a kind of value which can be converted into an integer. For example, a string like this can definitely be converted into an integer, but a string like this cannot be converted into an integer. So make sure whatsoever string you are passing should be compatible. So what we will do, we will take value from the user, but of course in form of string with help of buffered reader, and we can convert that string value into any specific data type. So this is the use of wrapper class which we are going to do in that program. Another technique that we are going to use in it is string tokenizer. Now what's the benefit of string tokenizer? String tokenizer divides a string, okay, into substrings, and we have understood it in our previous video lecture. So what we are going to do in our program, the program will ask two things from us. For example, it will ask our date of birth, suppose date of birth. So we will mention our date of birth. Let's suppose we are mentioning 26/02/1988. Okay, similarly we will ask current date, like today's date. So user will enter 19, that is last date, so let it be 21/5/2020. Fine, and we have to print the age. So age we have to tell, but we have to tell that in years, months and days. Now how do we do that? Okay, we know in real life how do we do that. We will first write down current date, like year, month, or you should write it in the same format, date, month, year. So 25/05/2020. Now here birthday 26/02/1988. So first of all we will subtract our birth year from the current year. But before doing that, you should be sure that your month, your current month, should be greater than your birth month. If the current month is not greater than your birth month, then what you have to do? Okay, we will discuss that later. But let's suppose if it is true, if the current month is greater than birth month, you will simply subtract year. So that will become how much? 1988 and 2020, I think 32, 8 to 10, 8, 1, 9, 10, 11, 12, yes, 32. Now 5 minus 2 will be 3, and 21 minus 26. See, here also you have to make sure. So before you are subtracting the year, you have to calculate the month, that your current month should be greater. And before you subtract the month, you should check that your current day should be greater. So like I cannot subtract month right now because current day is not greater than the birthday. Current day is 21, birthday is 26. So what I will do, I will take 1 month from here. So it will become 4. And when I will take 1 month, how many days it will increase? Actually it's not fixed how many days are there. So we will simply add 30 to it. So it will become 51. So we are assuming each month to be of 30 days. So what we had done, we subtracted 1 month and we added 30 days. Now it will become 2 months, and now you can do subtraction of days as well. So it will become 11, 6, 5, 11, 4, 2, 25. So age is 32 years, 2 months, 25 days. You got that? We are going to accept date of birth and current date in this format, and then we will split, we will divide this substring into, we will divide this string into substring. Okay, so from that substring we will get individual dates, then we will convert them into integers so that we can subtract them. Now before subtracting, few criteria you have to take care. Now let's see, suppose we are calculating year for some other birthday. Let's suppose I am entering 7 and let it be 30, let it be 29. 29 7 1988. So 29 7 1988. You see that this time your birth month is also greater than current month and your birth day is also greater than current day. So before subtracting here, what you are going to do, 1 year you will take from here, so that will become 2019. And because 1 year you are taking from the year to the month, how many months you will add? 12 months. So it will become 17. You got that? Now you can see, you can simply subtract it. I think it will become 31. 819, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, fine. Now 7 can be subtracted from 17. Definitely you can do that, but before subtracting month, check the day. Now there is an issue in the day also, so take 1 month from here and add 30 days here. So it will become 51. Now you can subtract 9, 7, 16, so 9. And let's see how many days here. So 9, 10, 11, 2 and 4, 22. Okay, so 31 years, 9 months and 22 days. I hope you understand the criteria, how we are going to do it. Now today in the practical session you will also understand this certain program and how we will perform this and how we are going to show the output. But this logic is important. If you understood this, then of course this program can be easily done. The last topic that we are going to discuss today is about control structure. Control structure tells the flow of control of a program, that how the program is going to be executed. There are different control structures in programming. The few control structures, or the main control structures of any programming language, are decision control structure, loop control structure, and the basic one, sequence control structure. The correct address is actually sequence control structure, decision control structure, and loop control structure. Now sequence control structure is normal program flow in which the program executes from the first statement till the last statement. Each statement is executed individually, one after the other. Okay. Now the second control structure is decision control structure, and decision control structure is a program control in which a certain statement is executed or a certain statement is skipped depending upon certain conditions. So whether we want to execute some statement or we want to skip some statement, this is decided according to some condition, and accordingly statements are executed or skipped in it. Few statements that we use in decision control structures are if else, nested if else, if-else-if ladder, if-else with logical operator, switch case statement, and ternary operator. Among these, I am not going to discuss about if-else because you have worked a lot on them, and it would be too much of wastage of time if I am going to discuss on them. But I am going to discuss few things on which basically questions can come in board examination as well, and few things which actually creates confusion for you. Like, I am going to discuss the difference between if-else and switch. If you remember, you can provide any kind of conditions can be greater than, less than, greater than, equals to, less than, equals to by using if-else statement. But if you are working with switch case statement, you can only work with equivalence. In other words, you can say in if-else statement, different variables can be compared. But in switch case statement, a variable is compared along with the constant for equivalence. In if-else statement, you can use any data type whichsoever you want. But if you are working with switch, you are having very limited data types to use. You can work on byte short int long, or you can work on character. Other than that, you cannot use any other data type. If you are working on if-else, you can use logical operators to combine more than one conditions. But that is not true while we are working with switch. We cannot combine more than one conditions in switch case. There is one difference which my students used to write in their examinations about fall through condition in switch case. There is a fall through condition in switch case, there is no fall through condition in if else. Actually, it's not a difference between them. Fall through is a situation which arises in switch case. So you can you can say, if you want to use this thing, you can say that we can use break statement in switch, but we can't use break statement in if else. Okay, break statement cannot be used in if else. Now, few of my students said, sir, in a loop I breaked the loop by using if condition. So let me clarify you, beta. You have breaked the loop, you haven't breaked the if else. So if else cannot be breaked. Only loop can be breaked, or a switch case can be breaked. So these are the main differences between if else and switch case. There are few other basic differences which you have already discussed in junior classes, and I will show you those differences in the exercises and notes as well. The next point that I want to discuss about, especially about switch case, is about fall through condition. So what is a fall through condition? Fall through condition is a situation in switch case where a statement executes, and then after all the statements that are part of switch gets executed one after another till the switch ends. So this is a situation in switch case, a fall through condition, and we can control this condition by using break keyword. So keep that in mind. And the last thing that I want to discuss about switch case is default keyword. Now default keyword, let me tell you, default keyword is not compulsory. Because one of my students once asked to me, sir, whether default keyword is compulsory in switch case or not. You can create a switch case block without creating any default in it. So default is not at all compulsory in switch case. Second thing, the place of default, is it fixed? Is it like we have to use default always as the last statement of switch? So that's also not true. You can use default wheresoever you want it to be in switch. But make sure, if we are having default as the last statement, then to save it from fall through, we need not to use any break statement in default, because default is the last statement, so afterwards definitely switch is going to over. But if I am using default as the first statement of switch case, definitely I have to use break with default as well, otherwise fall through condition can arise. So this was about switch case and decision control structure. The next control structure and the last control structure in programming is loop control structure. Loop control structure is all those programs where we are going to execute some statement or some set of statements for particular number of times. In Java, there are 3 loop statements that we can use to repeat a certain statement in a program. They are while, do while, and for. And I know you are all aware about all these 3 loops, but some of you are having problem with do while. So we are going to use do while in our whole video tutorials, video lectures, and even class lectures for 12th, so that you would be more comfortable on do while. One of the important question that being asked here from the loop control structure is the difference between exit control and entry controlled, or in other words you can say difference between while and do while. So I hope you are aware about it. And the last question that is part of loop control structure is difference between break and continue. Well, they generally don't ask it in 12th examination, but you should know the difference between break and continue. These are two statements used with loops. So this was the topic that we are going to discuss today. As far as theoretical class is concerned, we have discussed in today's lecture about wrapper classes, about methods of wrapper classes. We have also discussed about programming logic of age calculation, where we are going to use string tokenizer and wrapper classes. And finally, we have discussed about different control structures that we use in our program. So that's it for the theoretical part of today's lecture. So let's move on to our laptop.
Hey students, so this is the practical session of our 17th video lecture for LFS Raptinagar, and in this video lecture we are going to see the different wrapper classes, different methods that we are going to use, why it is known as autoboxing, and of course a program for calculating age using wrapper class and string tokenizer, and lastly we will see why default case and whether it is compulsory or not, and different places where we can keep the default case of the switch case. So let's start with the wrapper class. We know there are 8 primitive data types, and hence there are 8 wrapper classes, different wrapper classes for it. So here in this program I am going to show you the methods of different wrapper classes. Well, I am going to work with integer only. You can use float, double, and any other wrapper class that with which you want to work upon. One mistake I had done, I simply written it integer because integer is already a class, so maybe it can get confused. So try to give a unique name. So integer wrap, I'm giving it a name integer wrap. So I'm copying it and created the program. Here I will make it as an application program, so no need to worry of creating any specific method here. We will just simply create void main, and inside that main we will do the needful. So first of all I will create integer class, and before that I will create an integer variable first, int-a, and I have assigned a value to it, and I am creating an integer object. As I told you that integer is a class in java.lang package, or all the wrapper classes are in the java.lang package, so we need not to import anything if we want to use them. I have created obj1 and I call the constructor. Now within the constructor of this class I will pass this variable. So but of course this variable will be wrapped, the value of the variable will be wrapped inside the object. Okay, let's print the value of a and the object both. Let's see what will happen if we will print these variables and the object. So I have created one println method in which I have called one println method with a, and I am calling one other println method with obj1. If I will compile, you see there is no syntax error or any such error. I am just right clicking on it and clicking on the main method and click on OK. So you can see I am getting the output. That means this object can be used in all the operations of integers. So let's see whether we can add them or not. Let's see. Let's create an integer object, one more object, integer obj2 is equals to, let's add obj1 and a, and let's print the value of obj2 only. So let's cut it out, paste it here and print obj2. Compile again and run. This time you get the output 20. So it's clear. One last thing, let me check one last thing. Okay, int b, and let's print the value of b. What's the difference now with the previous statement? Okay, this will also work. Now we will discuss all the statements one after another, and here you will understand why it is autoboxing. Okay, clearly here you can see I have created a primitive data type, and then I have created an object and passed the primitive value into it. Hence this object will become a reference data type. Now what I have done in the next line here, I have added the reference data type along with the primitive data type, and I stored the value in the primitive data type again. So if you will see here, because I wrapped I wrapped the data inside an object. This is boxing. This one is boxing. Here I have actually added the wrapped data with the primitive data and then finally stored it in the primitive type. We know when we are operating a reference and a primitive one, result will be reference. And what we are doing, we are storing the value of the reference type back to the primitive. So here you are doing unboxing. But the interesting thing is, for boxing you have to, you are specifying the values, right? For boxing you are doing it like this. But for unboxing, what you are doing, you are actually not specifying, you are not typecasting or nothing like that. It's simply unboxing it. Okay, let me show you one more way, because this unboxing is done automatically. This is nothing but autoboxing. Let me show you one more way. Integer, another object, obj2, and I will not call any new and anything like that, and I will simply pass 20. Compile it, it compiled successfully. See, because you have not called the constructor and still it is working. It will automatically typecast this 20, it will automatically wrap up this 20 inside this object. So now, because with the latest version of Java, the boxing and unboxing is, your Java is capable to do them automatically. Hence, nowadays we are doing auto boxing. I hope this one you understood. Now I want to tell you, you are knowing the parseInt method, right? You are knowing the static parseInt method. But I want to tell you what's the difference, because this question many times students have asked to me, that what's the difference between value of and parseInt method. Value of and parseInt method. Now to show you the difference, if I will show you with a program, it's definitely not possible to understand the difference. So for that I am showing you a help file, a documentation file. It is available on Java website. Actually this is the documentation of standard edition 6. Okay, let me open a Zoom app first. I needed an app for zooming, so for that I waited in between. So you can see this is 6th edition help file, though all the classes that you need is available. I have opened integer class over here, and you can see the address of it is given, java.lang. Okay, its address is given. Now plenty of other things are also given. I want to show you only the methods, so I am directly moving on to methods. You can see all the methods, there's parameters, and even for what purpose they are being used, that is given there. Now earlier there was no autoboxing available, so that time when what method we were calling this method int value. There is a method int value which actually converts integer type of object to an integer type of primitive type. So I will show you this method, but let me show you the parseInt and the value of. You can see the parseInt. Okay, let me show you. Here it is. You got that? There are two versions. That means parseInt method is overloaded. So there are two versions of parseInt. Both are accepting a string. The second version is also accepting a radix. Now this is beyond our syllabus. Sorry, this is beyond our syllabus. We need to work on this one only. So I am clicking on this parseInt so that you can read for what purpose it is used. So you see, parses the string argument as signed decimal integer. You can see that, and even you can see the return type, right? Int. Return type is int. Okay, so first thing is the parseInt method accepts a string and returns a primitive data type. Okay, it also throws a number format exception. In the next lecture, in the upcoming lecture, we will discuss that. Don't worry. Let's see the value of method. If you remember the value of method, let's see, it would be the last one. Yes, here it is. You can see, and I am opening this value of method. Fine. So this value of method accepts a string and returns what? Can you see that? Yes, integer object. So the first difference between value of and parseInt. ParseInt and value of both can accept string, but parseInt is returning integer as primitive data type and value of is returning integer as object. First difference. Second difference, we can pass only string to integer.parseInt, right? We can only pass string. There is an overloaded method, but in that also we have to pass a string. But value of is having a very special method or overloaded form in which we will pass primitive data type and it will return its object. So we can pass a string and it will return integer object of it. We can pass an integer primitive type and it will return an integer object of it. So let's see. Let's discuss the basic difference. I hope you understood. The basic difference between value of and parseInt is parseInt converts the string into integer primitive data type, whereas value of converts the string into integer object. And there is an overloaded version of value of which can also accept integer as primitive type and convert it into an object. So these are the two basic difference of value of and parseInt, though you can use any one of them because nowadays we are using autoboxing, so it works totally well. Now I have also shown you one method over there, anti-value, that also we can use, but with autoboxing it is not required, so sometime I will show you that also. Or let's see, let me show you here itself. For example, integer, okay, let's just undo it. Okay, here it is. So I created an integer object. Now I want to convert it back to primitive type, right? Int b is equals to, so you can call it like obj1 dot int value. You can see, so what will happen, this obj1, which is a reference type, its integer value will be again converted to a primitive type. So this is how earlier we were unboxing it. This was the method of unboxing earlier. But nowadays, because of boxing and unboxing both can be done automatically, we can simply box it like this. I will show you within one line. So this is boxed and you can simply unbox it like this. So these two lines are actually example of autoboxing. So I hope you understood this. Now the next program that we are going to deal today is related to age calculation, if you remember. So we are going to accept few things from the user according to with the help of string tokenizer. We are going to convert that string into substring and then we are going to calculate the age. So here the string would be nothing but date of birth and all. So let's see, again it hanged, yes, now. So let's name the class as age calculator, and the logic of this program I already told you in the theoretical aspect. So we need to take value from the user as well, so definitely we need a buffered reader this time. I am not taking scanner because I want to show you the use of wrapper class as well as the use of string tokenizer. Okay, fine. Now as it is the application program, we will have this main method inside it, and here in this program we will first create scanner object, sorry, buffer reader object, my mistake, buffered reader br is equals to new buffered reader. Inside this buffered reader object or constructor we will call input stream reader. So input stream reader, and inside that input stream reader constructor we will call system.in. So buffered reader is ready, and because we have to import it, so let's import java.io.buffered reader. And since we are also using input stream reader, so let's import that also. So this is input stream reader. Okay, fine. When I will call readline, this method will generate a unreported exception error. So that's why I am using this throws and I am calling this exception. So throws exception. Now finally, in this program I will ask the user to enter date of birth and current date. So within 2 lines I will do that. So date of birth, and this date of birth I will accept in a string. Let it be dob, sdob, and I will accept it with buffer reader object br.readline. So the same thing we will do again, this time for current date, right? So let it be current date, and here let it be SC date, current date. Okay, fine. So we are having date of birth and current date. I hope you got this. Now what we are going to do, we are going to we are going to divide this date of birth into three parts: date, month and year. So for that I am taking help of, if you remember, string tokenizer. So string tokenizer, and this belongs to util package. So just import that, java.util.string tokenizer. Fine. And here create an object, st is equals to new string tokenizer, and within the constructor we will pass the first string, that is date of birth. Okay, now I will take, or we can even show error to the user if string tokenizer is saying that there are less than 3 tokens, that there are less than 3 parts, definitely date is not correct. So I am not doing the data validation here that you can implement in your program. I am assuming that the data will be entered correctly, and that's why I am creating 3 variables. The first variable is date, but this will work for date of birth, right? So I will simply write it date, month and year, and for the current I will write current date, current month and current year. Okay, so let it be birth date. Okay, that would be more interesting or more easy to use. Birth day, okay, birth month and birth year. So birthday will be integer dot parse int, and what I am doing, I am calling the next token from this st. Okay, so this, because I am calling it for the first time, it will return me the first part of the date of birth, that is the day itself. I have to call it 3 times because I need birth month and birth year as well. So 2 and 3, and I just need to change the variable. Next token method will be the same. So birth month and birth year, and the same thing I will do for current also. So I will take help of the same string tokenizer. I will call the constructor one more time with it. So what will happen, because I am calling the constructor one more time, it will remove the previous reference. Okay, it will remove the previous reference here, and in st now I am having the new date, which is sc date. Okay, now I will take current date, current month and current year in cd, cm and cy variable. So what I have done, let me show you one more time with string tokenizer 2 times. I created an object here. Okay, if it is confusing you, let me do it with 2 variables or 2 objects. Okay, so I am creating 2 string tokenizer object. Otherwise you might get confused, like how it is possible that we are working with 1, but you can easily do it with 1, don't worry. So first time I created a string tokenizer object st1, and there I entered the string date of birth. The second one is st2, and here I entered the current date. I called next token 3 times so that I can get the birthday, birth month, birth year, current day, current month and current year. Now I have to subtract, and I will get the age in year, month and days, right? ymd 3 variable I have created. Now before that I have to check if birth month is greater than birth year, sorry, current year. Is it possible? No, or it can be. So if birth month is greater than current month, okay, birth month is greater than current month. So I've shown you the example in the theoretical class. If it is so, then you have to do 2 things. First of all, in the birth year you have to subtract 1. Sorry, current year you have to subtract 1. And in the current month you have to add 12. So cm plus equals to 12. So in the current year I subtracted because current month was less, right? Current month was less than birth month. So what I have done, I subtracted 1 year in the current year and I added 12 months in it. Okay, you can do one more thing. If this time we will check for birthday. Birthday is greater than current date. Then also you can do the same thing. How? You can subtract 1 month, so CM minus minus, and then you can add 30 days, so CD plus equals to 30. So I have used shorthand operators over here. After this, we can calculate the age in year. Year will be current year minus birth year. Month, age in month will be current month minus birth month, and age in days will be current day minus birth day. Got that? Now we got the age in YMD. Now I only need to print it. So age is equals to Y years, okay, Y years, M months, and D days. So I hope it's final, and this will show you the age. So let's see whether it's working or not. Let's call the main method and let's enter the date of birth. So 26 as I have entered in the theoretical class. So 26, so you see 26 to 1988 as date of birth, and current date is 21/05/2020. Okay, now there is a problem. st1.next token is showing error, number format exception in 26/02/1988. Do you know what the problem is? I got the problem. Do you remember string tokenizer? And this is one of the logical error that you commit. When you are creating string tokenizer, you are only mentioning string over here. But here you have to mention one character also, according to which you are going to separate the string. Right? If you won't mention, then definitely it will take space as a delimiter. So here the delimiter that I am entering is a slash. So with this slash, I am going to delimit the string or separate the string into substring. So after entering this slash, let's compile again and let's run this program one more time, and I am guaranteeing you this time there will be no exception. So just make sure which version of string tokenizer you are using. So one more time, and 21/05/2020. So you can see 32 years, 2 months and 25 days as in the theoretical section. I hope you understood this logical error also, this program also, how to use string tokenizer, and definitely how to use the various wrapper classes methods. Now I told you one more thing about default, right? And I told you that I will show you a switch case where it's not necessary to keep the default at the end. You can keep it at the beginning also. So I'm telling you in this sample2 program, if you remember, it's sample2. Okay, I have accepted values and printed in it. So now I'm not going to do that because I want to show you only switch and the default. So I am taking a input from the user, definitely one integer from the user. So enter a number that I will ask the user, and according to the number I will print 1, 2, 3 or default, right? First, second, third or default. So in the switch I will pass this C, okay, and this time I will create different cases and I will keep the default at the end of this switch. So case 1, and for case 1 I will print first, and for case 2 I will print second and then third, and then a default first, second, third, and in default I will print participant, okay, and third. So this is a problem in, this indentation problem, especially with copy pasting and especially with BlueJ. Rest of the IDEs work very well with them. So case 2 and case 3. For case 2 I am writing second, and for case 3 I am writing third. And a default also I will make. So you can see I haven't used the break keyword, and hence what I will get right now, I will get a fall through. So finally everything is done, and in place of default, instead of printing third, I will print not decided. Let it be not decided. Okay, compile. But to save this from fall through, I am using a break with every case, but I will not use any break with default. I told you the reason in theoretical class today. Still, let's see this program, and here I will enter, let's suppose I enter 3, so third. If I enter 2, it will print 2. If I enter 1, let's enter 1, it will print first. But if I enter any other value other than 1, 2, 3, it will work with default, right? So fall through is not happening because of the break, and if I enter any other value, it will print not decided. But I told you that the position of the default is not necessary, and second thing, in fact, whole default is not compulsory. So let me first remove this default and switch, and let me show you that this switch will work. So I compiled it, it's working. But what will happen, suppose I enter 1, it will work. But what will happen if I enter a value rather than 1, 2 or 3, because default is not there, this switch will not do anything. Suppose 5, say it will not do anything. Now the next thing is, because default is not compulsory, you can create a switch without default. Next thing is, the position of default is not also fixed. That means you can keep default as the first statement, but make sure here you have to use that break keyword with default also. If you want, you can remove that break keyword with the case 3, but you have to use the break keyword with the default also, because default is the first statement over here. So right now I haven't used any break, and let me enter 5, and you can see a fall through for one case itself, but there will be a fall through like this. So not decided is printed, and first is also printed because I haven't breaked my default. So position of break is not fixed, break is not compulsory, sorry, position of default is not fixed, default is not compulsory, and in case if you are changing the position of default, make sure you are using break statement with default also, otherwise it will lead to a fall through case. So that's it for today's video lecture. Hope to meet you in the next video lecture. Till then, goodbye and have a nice day.